Welcome to Empyrion Galactic Survival, and here we are up on my capital vessel. The reason I want to start the video up here is if you look up in the top left, you will see that we are now on the Alpha 8.15 anniversary release. This was released on the 27th of August 2018 if you're watching this in the future. And the reason it's called the anniversary release is that as of the 5th of August this year, Empyrion has been available for 3 years, and over that 3-year period it has changed considerably, and based on the fact that the devs have announced Alpha 9, it looks like that process is going to continue for some time to come. And as someone who's actually played this game off and on for the last 2 years, I wasn't in at the very beginning, I must admit this game seems to grow on you more and more rather than become stale, and it's fantastic. Anyway, in this video what I want to do is focus on the update. It's quite a substantial update, but there are no real core functional changes, and I did consider starting again, and I thought no, it just seems a bit pointless because there's not much I can demonstrate by restarting again. Most of the changes in this update relate to new construction options, there's new text that have been introduced, there's been some changes with the colouring, there's also a number of what you would call quality of life updates to make the game better to play. There's been changes to creatures and creature behaviour. For example, the Triceratops has now gone, it's been placed by creature called a pangolin, so no longer am I going to have to struggle over trying to pronounce Triceratops, which is great. Now obviously there is a lot of change in this update, and therefore I'm not going to be able to go over every single element, and I think you guys would just get completely bored if I just sat here and read all the changes. So in the video description there will be a link to the full release patch notes. In this video what I want to do is show you the ones that I can demonstrate, and also talk about a few things that maybe I can't quite demonstrate, but I think they're quite important to talk about. And I think probably the first thing I want to do is just get into the tech tree, because there's been some new additions to the tech tree down, and I think it's actually in the hover vehicle. Now if you look down here, you'll now see there's this option called the hover thruster, and what this actually is it says in the description, it integrates hover engine, thruster and RCS into one device. Efficiency is limited. Place several hover thrusters and mind weight distribution to ensure the hover vehicle is well balanced. And this is effectively an early option when you start a new campaign and you want to get up and mobile very quickly. You can see it's a free unlock. I mean, I've got to unlock it simply because this is an existing game, so that's a small change, but I think it's going to have quite a big impact on the way that the game is played in the early stages. Now another change is over here in the small vessel, and again I want to unlock this. This is a detector, and of course if any of you guys are familiar with 8.0, they brought in the radar detectors at a personal level, and for hover vehicles they've now extended this for a small vessel, and I certainly want to do that. Now moving on to the base, there's an interesting new option in here. It's called the deconstructor, so I'm going to have to unlock the advanced constructor. I'm going to have to do it anyway. You can see I'm already at level 25. And this is a deconstructor, and what that will allow you to do is put items in there and extract the base materials, and I think that's going to be quite a good addition to the actual game, because one of the issues is that you go out and loot lots and lots of stuff, and well, once you've got it, unless you can drop it in a blueprint, I think we'll just knock that out, guys. Unless you can drop it actually into a blueprint, what are you actually going to do with it? Well, that spun out very quickly. Let's see if we can find the deconstructor. Maybe we'll knock out one of these. Now while that's actually constructing, I want to show you a new building option. It's called plastic blocks. You can get it for small vessel and hover vessels, and there's also one for capital vessels and bases, 2 different sizes, exactly mirrors the current block sizes. Now I've made a couple here. Now what I will do, I can't put that out because this is a base, I think this is the one, and I think we're just going to drop the bandages in there and drop that down there. And if I just deploy the plastic box there, and if we come in and have a look at it, they're pretty weak, so I would say that these are more an internal cosmetic block. Obviously they're going to be cheap and cheerful, because if I remember correctly from building them, yeah, you get one plastic for each, so compared to others these will be quite useful for internal decoration. And I think what we're going to do, I've got to remember where I put my actual small vessel. I want to go outside anyway, guys. I actually parked it up on the roof here because I've had a few problems getting the small vessel through the door. The wings are just about wide enough to hook on the door, and if I get hooked, they hook the wrong way. What actually happens is that the game actually seizes up and I can't do it. It's quite neat actually, guys. I think I can just tuck this onto the back of my ship here, just like that. Yeah, in fact in some ways that's actually neater than the one that fits on the hover vehicle. Wonder if I've got to look, guys, sorry, and see if they've changed it for the hover vehicle as well. No, we've still got the big detector for the hover vehicle. Right guys, while we're outside, I might as well show you another new feature of this update, and that is retractable turrets here. And just to show you, if I come in close and come here, if I turn the turrets off, you will see they will now retract into the ship. And I think that's pretty cool, guys. And another advantage of having this is that if you've got retracted weapons, they get an extra 20% more armor. Oh, it says, that's what it says in the update notes. Although why you'd want the weapons actually retracted and in a combat situation, I'm not too sure. More interestingly is that you don't have to replace these weapons to have an option. If I come in here and if we just retrieve this cannon here, I should be able to do it. And if we just come in here and just drop the turret back onto here, and what you will see is if you right click here, the rocket turret has an option. You can see there's like a box underneath. If I drop down like this, where it would be recessed in where the weapon will retract into. Obviously if I drop it here, it would be raised on quite an ugly block. And what you can do is just come in here and I'll just replace that. And in a similar note now, they've also introduced retractable undercarriage. Now what I will say, guys, is that there's no manual control over that, and I haven't really been able to test it. And I did have a look on the forums and there was a bit of a comment about it being a bit unreliable. So what I would suggest, guys, is that if you want to use retractable undercarriage, that you test it out maybe in creative mode first, get a feel for how it works. I mean, it's possible that the existing landing gear will retract automatically. Obviously my small vessel uses landing pads, and of course they're definitely not retractable. And I think moving on to another feature that actually comes in here, and I'm going to have to find my, don't know if I've got the colour gun. Okay, nope, I have to get over here and get into here. And I think if we get to weapons and meds, I think if we hook out the colour gun and we come back in again, I mean we need to colour this anyway, so obviously make our nice new retractable turrets fit in. And what I'll do is I'll just colour them back, and what you do is you come in here and see where it says configure, and now bear in mind this is a fixed palette associated with this ship here, and what you can actually see is that as you change the colour, you can actually change the overall shape of it. I think maybe if we come this way a bit, make it into a green there, and you can see I've now changed that colour on the entire ship. So I've gone from a ship with a blue hull with a yellow band to a ship with a blue to a green band. So that's something you need to remember when you're actually changing the colour coding, that it does affect everything that's been painted with that palette. But I think it's quite a neat feature. I mean, the actual update says infinite colours, but it's actually RGB colours, so there are some limits on the colour variation. I think I'll leave that green actually. I think it's quite cool actually. Anyway, so that's another feature of the new update. I think what we're going to do now, guys, is just going to fly back in to here, and it's going to drop down. before I go down onto the planet to show you any feature, there is another new feature that I must admit I'm not a big fan, because I'm not a big fan of actually flashing lights. But what you've now got is this option here. You can actually set the blink delay, and you can set the blink frequency like this. So you can now get your light, set your lights to blink. There's also an option, I think, where you can adjust it to actually lay down a spotlight effect, which I think would be quite fascinating, guys. Actually, let's just turn that off. Actually, I think it's going to irritate me too much, so just going to flip that off. Before we go down on the planet, I thought I'd mention some changes to creatures. The devs have been working hard on making the behaviour of creatures and how they respond to the player more realistically. They tend to run away. There's also a new creature called a telepod, which has amphibious behaviour. So if you engage it on land, if it's near water, it will run away and retreat in the water. That opens up an interesting concept in, should you meet one underwater, could you be able to attack it and kill it? The Triceratops has been replaced by the pangolin, and the arachnids and the desert worms have been given new shapes and new behaviours. That's just a brief overview of the changes, guys. If you want more details, feel free to have a look at the update notes. I think I've covered most of what I want to do up on the capital vessel. What I want to do now is go down in the planet and see if I can demonstrate some of the more quality of life features. And to do that, we're going to need to get into our small vessel. But one thing on the way through, one change they've made for if you're into building vessels, is they've now created modular wings so that you can get far better wing shapes, and more importantly they've also added pylons. So what you can actually do, if you actually look in the release notes, you can see where thrusters and weapons are now mounted on pylons underneath the wings. And in the release notes there's a picture which shows you all the different modular elements that you can actually use now to create wings of different, which I think is pretty cool, guys, actually. And I think let's just jump into the ship. I'm going to power up and turn the thrusters on. Right, what we're going to do now is get down on the planet, and I will see you once we actually get down there. Well, here we are. We're down on the planet, and I'm just going to close in on these mules because I want to show you the new additional targeting information that is now available. They've also changed the creature behaviour a little bit so that creatures now won't actually now respond. You can see they're already effectively running away from us, which is a little bit annoying because I actually want to target them. And you can see there, so you've actually now got a hit bar on the top here. So as you can see now, as we creep up, you can actually see them. And see if one of them's actually regenerated. Probably this is probably not the best weapon for. There we are. Got it. And as they say, waste not, want not. So that's another new feature of the update. I suppose we better get back to the automatic weapon. So we're just going to get over here, guys, and pick this up. And also, what they've also done as a quality of life is you can go now Shift F, and what that does is it literally picks up everything that's inside. So you no longer have to do this and then transfer over everything in one go. To be honest, I think for picking up the creatures and looting cargo boxes, that is a very, very big step forward. I think that completes the elements of the update that I can actually demonstrate in a video, and I don't want this video to be too long. So I think just to wind up, I'm going to go through some honourable mentions that are in the update. The devs have been working on the Robinson Protocol and some of the other in-game missions. They've also improved the desert start, so if any of you guys are looking for a little bit of an extra challenge at the beginning of the campaign, there is now a dry planet start. If any of you played the game in the Alpha 7 release, The start has very many similarities to the Omicron start. There is also a special event container which at the moment contains an epic drill and an epic armor. The devs don't specify how long that's going to last, and I'm not sure how you would actually find these new epic editions. And if any of you guys actually do know, feel free to drop a comment, because I'd be very curious to actually see what they are actually like. There has also been a change to when you eat food. If you maintain a food level of greater than 85%, which translates into 485 on the food scale, what actually happens now, you will get a status called well fed, which will actually allow you to regenerate health points, which could be quite useful, although the devs do specify that value may change sometime in the future. And in the similar vein, there's been a number of changes to medication notifications and other statuses, which I think has become fairly routine for every update. They have also added beer and radiation immunity shots, and I think the immunity shots slow down the progress of radiation poisoning, so it's not a cure as such, it's just that you can shoot up and that will reduce the speed of radiation. I haven't actually tried it myself at the moment, and the devs have hinted at the fact that there will also be additional medications to slow down infections and other medical effects, but of course they will not be the permanent cures. And I think on that note, guys, I don't want this video to be too long because it's obviously me just talking, not showing you real gameplay. I think this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the video, hope you found it interesting. Any comments, feedback, opinions, feel free to shove them into the video description. And until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.